scientists actually have religious faith. There are many scientists out there who believe in God, or some kind of divine architect, or higher power, or something like that. Many scientists are religious. And so from a sociological point of view, or just a descriptive or observational point of view, the conflict thesis is not very well founded. In fact, there was a recent sociological study that found that in 8 different regions across the globe that it looked at, a number of things came up in this study about scientists and their views of religion. In fact, the majority of scientists polled in this study did not view science and religion locked in a necessary intrinsic conflict. Amazingly, even in the place where the conflict narrative is most prevalent, namely the United Kingdom, only 35% of scientists there indicated that they thought there was a necessary conflict between science and religion. That leaves 65% who didn't see a necessary conflict between the two. And so the writers of this article, in their conclusions, amongst other things, they say the following: the perception of intrinsic conflict between science and religion, which is conveyed publicly in most of these regional contexts, is only minimally reflective of the perceptions that scientists themselves, often thought to be leading the charge of secularization, have of the science-faith interface. Most of these scientists affirmed what we might call, what Stephen Jay Gould has called non-overlapping magisteria. In other words, they thought that science and religion investigate different domains. They ask different questions, they use different tools, they're investigating different domains of reality. Most would sort of affirm that kind of view that were polled in this study. Interestingly, also, certain regions of the world are actually, it's more likely for scientists to be religious than the general public. Specifically in Taiwan and in Hong Kong, scientists had a higher probability of being religious than the general public, which is not the case necessarily in the United States, for example. In another study conducted by Elaine Eklund, sociologist, American sociologist, what she found was 34% of America's top scientists are atheists. 30% are agnostics, 8% believe in some kind of higher power, and 28% believe in God with varying degrees of confidence. Now, I want to stop and pause and just notice a few things about these statistics. First of all, it's a complex picture, isn't it? You can't say that scientists are generally atheistic, because obviously that's not the case. Although 34% in the atheist category is a high number. That's much higher than the general population in the US. Okay, so unlike Hong Kong and Taiwan, there's a greater chance, if you're a top scientist in the US, of being non-religious or being atheistic. She asked, well, why are you an atheist? She tried to discern what factors were involved. One of the number one factors, there's 3 that kind of rose to the top. One of the factors was simply didn't grow up in a religious home. And that seemed to be causally related, or at least strongly correlated with that. Second one was a bad experience with religion or the church or a pastor. And then the third reason was simply disapprove of the idea of God for a variety of reasons. So in other words, the reason that these top scientists in the US, 34% of them, say that they are atheists is, well, actually the same kinds of reasons that other people become atheists. There was actually nothing to do with the science, in other words. They were non-scientific reasons. They were psychological, sociological, personal experience kinds of reasons, which is just interesting. 34%, that's still a pretty high number, right? Considering the general population in the US is fairly religious. Why in this category? And she said, well, 2 things might be influencing this. One is that those who naturally gravitate towards a materialistic, not consumeristic, but materialistic in the sense of the physical is all that's real, that kind of a worldview. If you think that the physical is all that's there, there's a kind of natural gravitation into the sciences, into devoting your life to studying the physical. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have certain statistically significant groups of theists, namely fundamentalist groups, that are suspicious of mainstream science and therefore implicitly discourage their members from entering the sciences. So what's happening is that the population that's being investigated is being predetermined by these screening factors related to worldview and related to sometimes religious communities that are discouraging implicitly people from pursuing science because they're afraid to do so, and so forth.